Hi there, it's Marzena. This video wasn't really on my schedule. I had something completely different planned for this year's Valentine special. But for reasons that were beyond my control, I had to postpone that project. I still wanted to show you something near Valentine's, so I came up with this little concept. I have this quite weird tradition on my channel that every year I'm making some pretty sad figurine for Valentine's. And I thought, who can be sadder on a Valentine's Day? A day devoted to celebration of love, kisses, and romantic embraces, than a Cactus Fairy. To me, this idea sounds perfect. So let's dive in. Frankie is my least favorite face to customize, so I'm sitting on a bunch of them. That's why, from time to time, I have to force myself to work with this sculpt. The doll has pretty proper color for this project, so Frankie it is then. I cut the doll's hair and submerged the head in freshly boiled water for about a minute. It makes the decapitation easier, and it melts the glue that holds the hair plugs inside the head. I extracted those and I wiped the whole head with 100% acetone to clean it from the factory paint. As always, I put the prepped head into 9:1 acetone and water solution to make the head smaller and more proportionate. Usually I repeat the shrinking process twice, but this time I gave it a third go, and this is why this Valentine's video is late. The head shrinking took me like 2 weeks, and it was finally time for the actual customization. I made the hair from the acrylic yarns and prepped the scalp with acrylic paints, so I would know which color goes where. I secured it under a layer of watered-down Mod Podge. This reroute took me 17 hours to finish, but thanks to editing magic, it only takes 1, 2, 3 seconds and voila! I'm really in love with this purple hair color. I drilled 2 tiny holes in each of my doll's ears and glued in a banded wire that will be serving as a base for the new ears later. With the wires in, I could finally secure the new hair by spreading some high-tack glue inside the head. I let it dry for a day or 2. To tame the hair, I made 3 braids. I widened the neck hole, trimmed down the neck peg and the bolts sticking from the neck, and I slimmed down the neck itself. Then, with the help of a hairdryer, I popped the head back on the body. Then I turned my girl into a cozy burrito. From my all-time favorite epoxy sculpt, I sculpted long pointy ears. I also decided to give her a bigger lower lip, like in those sad, close to crying expressions. It didn't end up being perfect, but not horrible either. Anyway, when the epoxy cured, I sanded down its surface, focusing especially on the epoxy to plastic transitions. After that, I could paint the sculpted parts with a minty acrylic. It was a little bit too dark, but I decided to color match it with some pastels later. At this point, I noticed that I missed one step. I wanted to make some small indentations in the face for the future antennas and spines. She's a Cactus Fairy after all. I fixed the paint job and sprayed my girl with 3 layers of Mr. Super Clear. And finally, it was time for the face-up. First shading and blushing with pan pastels, then adding some watercolor pencils to the party. I am using Derwent Ink 10s Faber-Castell Arbrecht Dürer, and sometimes some Koh-i-Noors, but they are the worst from the bunch. The whole process is pretty much self-explanatory, so let's talk a little about the concept. As I said at the beginning, it was supposed to be a totally different project, but I had to postpone it for another 2 or 3 weeks. The circumstances that led to this were beyond my control, and I really wanted to make something for this Valentine's. I just could switch the original project with the next one and do this instead. Just change the order. No one would notice. But I decided to use this unfortunate opportunity to continue my little tradition of making sad Valentine's specials. 2 years ago I made my dark Valentine, and last time my sad little lovebird. So I needed some sorrowful concept. What kind of a creature could be unhappy and depressed around a day like that? Probably the one that can't be hugged and loved. And have you ever tried to hug a cactus? My 2-year-old nephew did that once by accident, and trust me, that was not a happy accident. It was pretty nasty. Nothing serious, but a lot of crying. He won't be willing to hug another cactus in his life. Must really suck to be a cactus fairy that no one wants to hug, even on Valentine's Day. Okay, back to the face-up. I said many times that lashes and eyebrows are always a struggle for me, right? Well, here's a little insight into my lashes process on this doll.
Makabra po prostu, makabra. Jak ludzie robią rzęsy? Ja O mój Boże. Nigdy więcej. O fuck. Czemu? O.
Yeah, there was way more, but you get what I'm saying. I may be quite confident with my face-ups by now, but that doesn't mean that I won't stumble upon a feature that will make me cry, curse, and laugh hysterically. The last one is my favorite. So just remember, getting frustrated with your art, yeah, that just happens sometimes. Just be stubborn and persistent, and you will get there eventually. Of course, my lashes still suck, but they are okay for now. I love drawing freckles on my dolls, so this miserable cutie needed to get some too. To finish the face, I glossed the eyes and lips with Liquitex Gloss Varnish. This time I also glossed the tip of her nose. And with the UV resin, I added some tears running down her cheeks. And the face-up was done. and here's the comparison. Each and every time I am blown away by how well the shrinking process works and how much better the Monster High dolls look with smaller heads. In my opinion, at least. Time for some body modifications. And I had to modify this one a lot. First, I needed to modify the torso. I love the Monster High original bodies, quite unpopular opinion I guess, but this girl needed something a bit different. So I got rid of the middle part of the torso and went straight to the legs. I cut one off and then separated the thigh from the lower leg. I modified the torso and leg parts further and further until I was able to put them in a proper pose. I sanded down all the painted stitches, plastic seams, panties, and any sharp edges. I put lower part of the doll together. Then I modified the arms. I wanted to push the shoulders forward. I drilled the hole in the shoulder sockets and put a wire inside. Reconnecting the torso required some patience and a lot of hot glue. Then I could get to sculpting. First, I sculpted the new belly and butt cheeks, and I covered the knee joints. It is easier to sculpt in phases, to make the sculpted parts more accessible to sanding files or paper. But I didn't have much time here, so I waited just a few hours for the first part of epoxy to cure. It wasn't ideal, but somehow I was able to sand it, so yay! The second part was to attach the arms and sculpt the rest of the body. So after more gluing, sculpting, curing and sanding, our girl looked like this. I just had to make the indentations for the spines. After that, I rinsed all of the dust away and left my girl to dry in peace. Then I could prime her with white Vallejo hobby paint. Let's make her minty again. First layer of pan pastel didn't do much, but after a few layers sealed in between with MSC, it looked okay. To the shading and blushing then. There was a moment when I really thought that I will have to wipe the whole thing with acetone and start over, but I decided to pursue it for a few more layers, and it in fact started to look decent. After I colored all the indentations on her body, she looked like she had chickenpox, but let's just trust the process. Of course, I drew some freckles here and there to match those on her face. Okay, last layer of MSC and it was time to unwrap her head. I made a quick fix-up to the neck. And boom! The body was done. Well, mostly. But for now, let's focus on the stand. I took a medium-sized wooden brick and made a hole in it. Then I made few more. I glued a very thick bendable wire pieces in the holes. Next step, creating a general cactus shape from aluminium foil. When I was happy with the shape, I could finally start the actual sculpting. I used Super Sculpey and a pasta maker to soften it up. When the whole sculpture was covered in clay, I put it into the oven for the first baking. After my cactus cooled down, I sculpted the ridges. I used liquid Sculpey as my bake and bond. At first I smoothed everything out, but later decided that the markings made by the tool look kinda cool, so I created them again. I also poked the indentations for the spines. One arm done, 1, 2, 3 to go. And voila! Ready for the last baking and for some paint job. I primed my sculpture with a black Vallejo hobby paint and painted it using an airbrush. After a layer of MSC, I could attach my doll. I glued a piece of wire in her butt to pin her to the cactus, which made the attachment stronger than just super glue on her butt cheeks. To the hair! I previously divided the hair into 3 parts to create 3 space buns. First, I made 3 ponytails, secured them with a wire, and covered this wire with a single strand of hair. I wasn't sure if this hairstyle would work, but I had to try. I divided the colors and started to stylize the buns from the middle white part. I was taking a small strand of hair, wrap some hair gel into it, curl it just a little, and cut short with the pointy end. Then proceed like that, strand by strand, layer by layer. And it ended up exactly how I imagined it, like a cute little flower. 1 down, 2 to go. After 8 hours, well, I went to sleep because it was 5:30 in the morning. But the hairstyle was finished and was looking really cute. Did you think that this little piece of wood will be an actual stand here? I bought this black pot exclusively for this project. I just needed to stick a little ball of clay in the hole at the bottom and put some styrofoam inside the pot because it is pretty deep. I placed my figurine inside the pot and filled the remaining space with the dental plaster. When that cured completely, I mixed some AK terrain paste with few shades of brown acrylics and smeared it all over the sculpted ground and the plaster. I decided to also add a few tiny rocks here and there. Okay, another huge face to finally put behind me, the spines. I made a lot of them off camera. I sculpted them from cosplay that stays flexible after baking, and painted them with mint and beige acrylics. I also made those 3 flowers to put them on my cactus. I just dabbed the base of each spine in the super glue puddle and glued them one by one into the indentations. Oh, I almost forgot. I also made her a pair of resin wings. If you want to know what technique I used, check out some of my other fairies videos. Placing the spines took some time, like everything in this project, but I'm happy with the result. To make the cactus more natural looking, I came up with an idea of adding those terrain grass tufts around the spines and on top of each arm of the cactus. I thought that it will make it look more fleshed out and interesting, despite the fact that gluing those was another time-consuming pain in the butt. My husband said that I'm ambitious, but I think I'm just bonkers. Everything was looking pretty good, so I guess this just had to happen.
Guarda. Oh. Fuck.
I didn't have any energy left in me to feel upset anymore.
Future me problem.
I believe the pot cracked because the wooden brick fit a little bit too tightly inside of it. Good thing that the crack appeared at the back, not the front. Maybe in the future I will replace this pot, but for now it's fine. I'm fine. Everything's fine. I finished gluing all the tufts in place and then I could focus on fixing this disaster. I took a sandpaper and smoothed the crack out and filled it with a super glue. After some more sanding, I could just spray over with some black paint. I decided to put some gloss on the cactus to make it look more juicy. I also added a little bit of dark wash on the ground. I painted her nails with creamy acrylics and fixed them under a layer of gloss varnish. I also created the tiny tears from UV resin on her knee and shoulder. As the last tiny element, I made this ball sack. I mean a heart-shaped prickly pear. Because they actually can grow in a heart shape, and I thought that it could make our girl even more sad. And with this little thing, the doll was finally finished. From the concept to the final figurine. Wow. This was such a time-consuming project. Because it wasn't on my schedule, I had to wait like 2 weeks for the head to shrink. Reroot took the whole day, just like the stand sculpting. 8 hours of hairstyling and like 5 of gluing the spines. But at least in my opinion, it was all worth it. She looks so cool, and the amount of work I put into her makes me feel really proud of myself. She's cute, sad, and just a proper amount of creepy. I am so happy I finally finished her. Even the broken pot can't ruin my mood now. I guess there's just one thing that could make me feel even better. if I would actually manage to upload this video a week ago. But I hope that even if it's a whole week after the Valentine's, there's still some Valentine's mood in the air. I would love to hear what you think about my sad Valentine's tradition and my lonely Cactus Fairy. I hope you like her as much as I do. Of course, this doll will once again go to my mom to join the ranks of her fairy army. I hope that she will like her too. If I managed to entertain you a bit with this video, please give it a like. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel with the bell if you haven't already. Also, check out my Instagram for more content like short videos, sneak peeks, and updates on my upcoming projects. Thank you guys for watching, and see you soon!
Pomagacie?